So today we're going to be talking about how an organization, specifically LogistiCorp, failed their product modernization initiative, and more importantly, what we collectively can learn from it. So who is LogistiCorp? LogistiCorp is a representative example of a mid-sized logistics and fulfillment provider. So we're talking around 220 or so employees, with 100 of those involved in the organization's development and infrastructure. So while the company itself is fictional, they are based on real world patterns, challenges, and operational realities we have observed across specialty retailers and mid-sized manufacturers, both from the perspective of Inedo employees or team members have worked with companies of this nature in the past, or they have been clients of lean platforms or BuildMaster Inedo clients. So a lot of these anecdotes and stories are pulled from real life stories that we have experienced, again, as employees or from our clients, but we've anonymized this and kind of rolled this into a fictionalized company. So today's really going to be a counterfactual about how things went in LogistiCorp's modernization attempt and how it would have gone if they had become a lean platform client of ours using the lean platform's methodology plus BuildMaster, right? Services and our tool BuildMaster, which is what lean platforms is combines to be. If they had done so, they would have had different outcomes. And I'm going to show you through kind of what actually happened to them and then what it would have been otherwise. So in other words, the struggles of LogistiCorp that are represented here are all too real for many organizations navigating digital transformation. Their official mission statement captures their purpose perfectly, which is we give mid-sized businesses the logistics power of a nationwide chain without needing to invest in mega scale warehouses and routing systems. However, repeated delays on urgent orders and frequent stockouts revealed that LogistiCorp's legacy systems couldn't keep up with customer needs. To prevent lost revenue and improve service reliability, the company set out on an ambitious journey, modernize its logistics platform in just 12 months. The goal of this modernization was to strengthen its competitive position by delivering two transformative capabilities: dynamically prioritizing urgent orders and automatically rerouting shipments from other warehouses when stock ran out. These changes were essential to keeping pace with logistics landscape that was shifting faster than ever. Retailers were placing smaller, more frequent orders to stay lean. Manufacturers expected near instant adjustment when production schedules changed, and regional distributors demanded same-day clarity on stock and movement. For LogistiCorp, this transformation was necessary to stay relevant in a market where the ability to dynamically prioritize and reroute could mean the difference between being a trusted partner and being replaced by one that could adapt faster. So today we will walk through how that journey unfolded. So as the modernization kicked off, it quickly became clear that coordinating across the two core systems, StockTrack, the legacy monolithic order and inventory platform, and RouteMax, the modern microservices-based routing suite, was far more complex than anticipated due to the technical interdependencies between these fundamentally different architectures. Because of this, teams were forced to patch gaps with spreadsheets and manual processes just to keep operations flowing. So as an example, one warehouse manager stayed late Friday evening reconciling mismatched inventory, delaying shipments while customers waited. Errors and delays piled up. Urgent orders sometimes shipped late or to the wrong location. Customer frustration grew, and what was intended to streamline operations began straining the business, revealing the hidden cost of moving fast in a highly interdependent system. So to meet the ambitious 12-month modernization timeline, leadership at LogistiCorp decided to accelerate development. They wanted shorter release cycles, more automation, and more frequent updates. Now, at first, this seemed to work. Dashboards looked good, velocity metrics rose, and confidence grew, but soon cracks started to appear. So small changes unexpectedly affected multiple teams and modules. So for example, the first major incident made the risk clear. A configuration update intended to optimize order packing inadvertently conflicted with the label printing service. Pallets were mislabeled and sent to the wrong warehouses, creating operational chaos and requiring teams to scramble to correct shipments. Moving faster had unintentionally created a new source of risk, proving that in complex systems, speed without careful coordination can backfire. After the labeling incident, leadership shifted to focus from speed to stability, right? So once bit, twice shy. Longer QA cycles, additional approvals, and stricter architectural reviews were implemented to prevent repeat failures. Now, while these safeguards slowed down delivery, they didn't eliminate the core problem, which is that the systems were deeply intertwined and even small updates remained complex and risky. Teams still had to coordinate across modules and operational strain continued. The organization had learned the hard way that simply slowing down is not enough when complexity is baked into the system. So as the transformation continued, day-to-day operational needs were increasingly deferred. Warehouse managers stopped submitting feature requests, developers postponed refactoring, and teams relied on spreadsheets and custom scripts just to keep operations flowing. So these small usability enhancements, both internal improvements like buttons to retry label prints or auto refresh for fulfillment queue, and customer related features like faster access to priority orders and improved inventory visibility were continually backlogged. Each enhancement seemed minor, but together they significantly impacted internal teams and sometimes clients. Frontline users cared far more about these practical improvements than the big executive sponsor, air quotes, future vision changes, which were prioritized instead. Customers began to feel the strain in subtle but significant ways like delayed replenishments, mismatched inventory data, and slower turnaround on priority orders. So as a result, some clients shifted to alternate regional third-party logistics organizations or invested in their own small storage solutions, which is to say, just so it's not buried in there, LogistiCorp was losing business, right? Their customers were leaving to handle the need that LogistiCorp fulfilled themselves, or they were just churning to competitors. Obviously, churn, big problem. So prospective customers on the sales side, new business side, prospective customers, meanwhile, grew hesitant to commit to long-term contracts without stronger assurances of reliability in terms of what was happening over there at LogistiCorp. So as I mentioned, churn increased and existing contracts were strained. Internally, what started as a race to modernize has quietly created a cumulative burden across the organization, affecting both operational teams and the very clients the company was trying to serve. So looking back at LogistiCorp's modernization journey, the real problem wasn't just that the organization was moving too fast. It was a combination of factors that made the transformation painful and unpredictable. Operational fixes and minor improvements were repeatedly deferred, leaving hidden problems that quietly grew. Small updates, when applied to complex interdependent systems, caused repeated errors and delays. Partial releases and brittle integrations eroded efficiency, while teams spent more time firefighting than delivering value. On top of that, a lack of visibility and coordination across development, operations, and account teams made it difficult to predict the impact of any change. The cumulative effect was inconsistent customer experiences, declining trust, and frustrated teams. This set the stage for a solution that could address these issues systematically, enabling predictable delivery and restoring confidence across the organization. So far, we have seen how LogistiCorp's modernization journey created more friction than freedom. The real issue wasn't speed or even the technology itself. It was the absence of a shared risk-aware mindset for managing complexity. Small operational problems piled up, interdependent systems amplified every change, and teams were constantly firefighting. Even if they had more time, the same issues would have surfaced because each build or release carried unpredictable ripple effects across tightly coupled systems. They were moving fast without a clear way to understand how one change might impact another, and without a consistent practice of evaluating the business and technical risk of every update. There was no mechanism for distinguishing between what could move safely and what required coordination, so teams treated all releases and builds the same and suffered the consequences. Now, let's imagine if LogistiCorp had already gone through our methodology lean platforms, our service offering lean platforms. Now, in that world, teams operate differently. Every proposed software change is evaluated through the lens of risk, both business and technical, before any code is written or build is created. They release low-risk changes frequently and predictably without disrupting operations. They plan high-risk changes carefully with clear visibility and alignment across teams, ensuring that both releases and their constituent builds are coordinated safely. There are two key tenets of lean platforms that make this possible. The first is a dual cadence release track for every proprietary application. With that, you have low risk and high risk releases. So low impact or low risk changes move through a fast routine release pipeline, whereas high impact or complex changes move through a slower major release pipeline. This separation manages complexity at the source, allowing both speed and stability to coexist. Teams are no longer guessing which changes are safe to move quickly and which require coordination. The second tenet is that we build a centralized dashboard, a central command center for real-time visibility. This is done through our tool BuildMaster. BuildMaster provides a unified real-time view of all builds, releases, and their associated pipeline and dependencies. It's the control hub that supports the lean platform's mindset. It integrates with existing tools like Jira, GitHub, or Jenkins, so teams and stakeholders already know exactly how systems connect, where risks lie, and which releases and builds are ready for deployment. This isn't just about dashboards, it's about reducing the cognitive load of managing dozens of simultaneous releases and builds and keeping both high risk and low risk work moving in parallel with confidence. For organizations that have adopted lean platforms, the first change isn't technical, it's cognitive and it's behavioral. Teams begin by regularly evaluating every requested change through the lens of risk, building the habit of asking not just, can we do this, but rather, what's the potential impact if we do this on the release or build? So that's an important nuance. Risk isn't just about whether the code will break. There are two dimensions that must be understood together. The first is technical risk. The chance that a change could cause a bug, conflict with other builds, or require a complex rollback. The second is business risk. The chance that a change, even if technically simple, could disrupt operations or negatively impact customers. This dual lens helps teams move beyond intuition or siloed judgment. It turns risk awareness into a shared decision-making language across development, operations, and business stakeholders. A change might be high technical risk, but low business risk, or vice versa. Understanding the difference allows teams to make smarter trade-off, plan releases intentionally, and avoid treating every change as equally urgent or equally safe. Teams that have gone through lean platforms regularly meet to negotiate over implementations, not just assign them. This reduces risk before work even begins. For example, a request for a custom text field in a form might be technically risky. The team might propose a simple alternative like a checkbox that achieves the same business outcomes but carries much lower risk. Over time, these risk negotiation discussions become second nature, forming the behavioral foundation that allows technical systems like BuildMaster to scale safely. Over time, this way of thinking becomes routine. Risk awareness shifts from being an activity to being the default operating mode. Everything is filtered through this lens. Which changes are low risk and can go into the routine release pipeline, or which changes are high risk and require careful planning in the major release pipeline. This shared vocabulary gives every team a common framework for prioritization and coordination. If we take the update disaster that misrouted pallets at LogistiCorp, under lean platforms, the team would have flagged it as a high technical risk because the change touched multiple systems such as routing, labeling, and warehouse operations, where a single error could cascade across workflows. Rather than rushing it out into a standard release, they would have recognized the need for a coordinated rollout, explored a safer implementation option, and scheduled it within a clearly identified major release. These major releases are intentional, high visibility events. Everyone understands the timing, scope, and acceptable level of disruption. Meanwhile, smaller improvements like adding buttons to retry label prints could move quickly through the routine release pipeline without disrupting operations. And as BuildMaster provides a real-time view of all these concurrent releases and their pipelines, teams can work safely on multiple releases and builds in parallel. This maintains speed without losing control. This mindset is what makes dual cadence releases effective. It connects the concept of risk evaluation to operational reality. It lets teams balance technical and business risk, make incremental progress safely, and prevent small changes from piling up into system-wide problems. Lean platforms turns that behavior into a repeatable discipline, while BuildMaster provides the centralized command center that makes it sustainable and scalable across the entire organization. So teams that have adopted lean platforms hold regular structured discussions to review upcoming work. These serve as an active risk negotiation sessions designed to reduce uncertainty before it reaches production. Every proposed change is evaluated through two key questions. What is the technical risk? What is the business risk? By framing every decision this way, teams replace assumptions with structured trade-offs, balancing speed, safety, and business value in every release. For example, a business request might initially seem complex, a new stock workflow or a delivery automation trigger. Instead of committing to the highest risk approach, the team explores alternatives that achieve the same business outcome with lower risk. Now, once identified, these changes are then applied to the associated release pipeline. Low risk changes are assigned to the routine release pipeline, moving quickly and predictably. High risk changes are assigned to the major release pipeline with visibility into blockers and potential impacts. This negotiation process keeps everyone aligned around a shared, explicit understanding of what's being delivered and why it's safe to do so. This is the behavior that LogistiCorp lacked during its modernization effort. They moved fast without shared visibility or structured negotiation, confusing speed for making progress. Lean platforms would have allowed them to move fast with intent and ship value predictably. But applying the lean platforms mindset can be hard to implement if you haven't got the right tools in place. So let's zoom out and take a look at the scale of what we're managing. Even if a single application doesn't have just one release, it has multiple releases happening at the same time, each with its own builds, dependencies, and potential impacts. Now, imagine LogistiCorp, which has over 50 separate applications. Each application could have several releases active at any given time. Each of these releases could have several builds at different stages of its pipeline. That's dozens, if not hundreds of moving parts happening simultaneously across the organization. If you're trying to apply the lean platform's mindset and dual cadence release approach at this scale without real-time visibility, you can quickly see how unwieldy it becomes. Teams would be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information to keep track of. That is exactly why a centralized command center like BuildMaster is critical, with real-time visibility across all applications, releases, and builds. Teams can easily zoom into each application, each release within each application, and each build within each release. The current state of each build can easily be identified, as can the issues assigned to each release. BuildMaster's intuitive dashboard makes navigating through the web of applications, releases, and builds quickly and easily. And this level of cross-application visibility isn't something tools like Jenkins or Octopus provide. Those show pipelines, not the relationships between releases, environments, and issues across an entire organization. BuildMaster, however, is designed for that bigger picture. So now I'm going to hop into our demo instance of BuildMaster. We've put some, if not all, of LogistiCorp's applications and kind of moving parts into it to really show you how BuildMaster serves as that central command center, providing real-time information about all of your builds and releases. So now let's see how things look when LogistiCorp has adopted lean platforms and BuildMaster, and how this works in practice. So we're going to start with applications. So I'm clicking here on applications. As we scroll through the list, we pass a wide range of applications from LogistiCorp, like FleetEye and ShipSite, routing APIs, mobile apps, background services, batch jobs, and shared libraries that power the entire logistics ecosystems. So you can already see how doing this without some kind of centralized dashboard is clearly unwieldy or overwhelming, even for the most organized of teams. So imagine doing this without a dashboard of this nature. So we are going to stop at Fluxor, which is LogistiCorp's application responsible for processing inbound and outbound orders, right? This is where order intake, picking, packing, validation, and shipping workflows all come together. So when we click into an application in BuildMaster, we see that it's not just running off a single pipeline. We have a major release pipeline in motion for high risk releases. So that is down here. This is the major, right? 16.0. And then we have multiple routine low risk releases at different stages. So 15.25 is in build, 15.24 is in testing. We have issues related to that. 15.23 build, no issues currently related to it. So organizations will schedule these releases during routine planning sessions where product managers decide which changes belong in each upcoming routine or major release. Those decisions are tracked in this team's planning system, usually through version tags or a shared release calendar, so everyone knows what's planned and when. Each release contains multiple builds, which are snapshots of the code at specific Git commits. Developers can drill into any build to see code differences, test results, and traceability to JIRA issues. The major releases are indicated by the first digit, such as 15.0, 16.0, etc. Fluxor is now at version 16, having received about 2 to 3 updates in the 8 or so years it's existed. The routine releases are indicated by the second digit, such as 15.25, 15.24, and so on. So as part of the routine releases that go out every 2 weeks, we've decided for the routine releases, we're around version 15.24 for this year for Fluxor, with the next 2 releases already planned. Obviously, those are going to be 15.23, 15.24, 15.25. In our demonstration today, the major release pipeline carrying Fluxor 16.0 contains high-risk cross-module changes like a rerouting logic, the new warehouse priority engine, and real-time status API. These are high-risk items, so that pipeline moves more slowly and has heavier checks. Fluxor 16.0 sits in the major release pipeline because these particular updates don't stay contained. Changes to Fluxor's core order processing logic ripple into other applications such as lib warehouse core. You know, in fact, I might even be able to show those. Let's see here. Lib warehouse core, you know, so you can see these. Lib warehouse core, API order validator, and order queue processing. Just kind of do here. F5ing to find the different order queue processor. So these are different applications, right? Fluxor's core order processing logic ripple into lib warehouse core, API order validator, and the order queue processor service, and even the daily audit batch job. Because this release affects multiple modules, services, and downstream jobs, it's treated as a high-risk change. So we're going to go back to Fluxor, kind of our home base for this here demo. We can also see routine release pipelines like 15.23 and 15.24, as I've mentioned. These carry the fast, low-risk fixes, the kinds of changes that don't touch the core order processing engine or any of the shared modules. So these updates usually stay inside a single isolated component. Things like UI tweaks, fixing a label retry timeout, updating translations, or tightening a SQL index. They don't alter the business rules, they don't change how routing behavior, and they don't affect anything downstream like order validator, warehouse core, or the nightly audit jobs. Now, in a real lean platforms rollout, this is exactly the point where teams would have reviewed the full list of upcoming changes, tagged them by risk, and negotiated which ones could be simplified or decomposed into routine releases and which belong in the major release track. Genuinely high-risk items that need deeper coordination and slower promotion. Dependencies, blockers, and upcoming changes become visible early so teams can make decisions proactively instead of reacting after something breaks. So, for example, if a stock track exchange includes updates to logic that RouteMax's labeling service relies on, that relationship becomes clear through linked issues, commit messages, and the release context. That's enough for teams to adjust timing or coordinate testing before rollout. This kind of visibility prevents the cascading surprises that once caused misrouted pallet chaos at LogistiCorp. And more importantly, it reduces cognitive load. Teams aren't hunting across tools to understand what's happening. They can see the state of every application, every release, and every build in a way that's simple, intuitive, and scalable, even across hundreds of systems. Each pipeline has its own set of gates, so any issue assigned to it automatically inherits the required checks and approvals before deployment. This ensures safety without slowing down routine updates. So, for example, let's take a look at our routine pipeline. So I am going to this. I'm going to go settings, pipelines. Each pipeline has its own set of gates, so any issue assigned to it automatically inherits the required checks and approvals. As I mentioned, this ensures safety without slowing down routine updates. So we're going to take a look at our routine pipeline here, and I clicked on edit. And as an example, we have set up this pipeline so that naturally all issues need to be closed before it deploys. But in addition to that, we've also set it so that it checks the application was built from the master branch of our repo and not one of the other feature branches. We've also added manual approvals. Even though release 15.24 has been defined as low risk, we still added a couple of manual approval gates. Fluxor sits at the center of a lot of moving parts, so even a minor tweak can nudge warehouse core, order validator, the queue processor, or even the daily audit job that reconciles order data every night. These quick checks only take a moment, but they make sure a routine update doesn't quietly trigger the same kind of dependency ripple that used to catch teams off guard. This is exactly where LogistiCorp fell short before. Small changes went out without anyone double checking their downstream impact, and that's how things like the labeling failure slipped through. Right, now that we understand the gates, let's see how individual issues connect to releases, because that is where Lean Platform's thinking becomes operational. Issues for any given release pipeline are listed on the issues page, issues tracking page. So you can see we have these different issues. Whether the issue comes from Jira or another tool, you can tie them to a specific release pipeline and the builds within that release in BuildMaster, and directly see who requested it, what it impacts, and which cadence it belongs to. Each of the three pipelines we looked at has its own list of issues assigned to it. LogistiCorp uses Jira for its ticket, so that's what we will be showing today. BuildMaster automatically associates them to the correct pipeline and release based on their risk and intended cadence. So now I'm going to navigate over to the Jira instance for LogistiCorp. Okay, we'll create a new low-risk issue, something simple and contained, such as pre-fill the warehouse code when cloning an order. So I'm going to create an issue. It's in the LogistiCorp space, and that is going to be pre-fill the warehouse code when cloning order. I'm going to now, obviously Jira users will know that you can do things like set due dates and whatnot. I'm not going to do that here, but I am going to assign this to 15.24, and I'm going to create that issue. So I've created this low risk issue, pre-fill the warehouse code when cloning an order. Who this is done by will usually vary from an organization to organization, but you'll often see it created by the product owner and assigned to members of the app's development team. This is exactly the kind of change that belongs in a routine release. Low impact, easy to test, no cross-team dependencies. In Jira, we can give it a release number. Obviously, I've already done all this, and this will correspond to the correct release pipeline in BuildMaster. This small step transforms an isolated task into part of an orchestrated plan, placing it in either the routine or major release pipeline based on its assessed risk. So I've assigned it to 15.24, one of the active routine pipelines. Now, if we head back to BuildMaster and give our issue tracking page a refresh, we can see the issue has tracked, has been updated in real time. Navigating back here. Now, there is an API that I'm going to F5 it. Okay, not in there yet. I'm going to do a manual sync issues. It's taking a little bit of yep, there we go. Pre-fill the warehouse code when cloning an order. So that was created by me here today. So like I said, if we give the issue tracking page a refresh, we can see that the issue tracking has been updated in real time and that our issue has been added to this release. Now, anyone from a developer to product owner can see exactly what pipeline the changes and connected to. So this is now in the issues tab for this release. This closes the loop between planning and delivery. Each issue is now a visible unit of change tied to a specific release, its pipeline, and the associated builds with a defined risk level. BuildMaster also allows for Git integration. I will show that now. Go to build overview, scroll down here, and I'm going to click on feature order process. So developers can look into builds to see Git commits and code differences to quickly understand the real impact of what's about to be released. So when teams are shipping small changes, this context becomes critical. It helps them confirm what's actually included and makes safer promotion decisions. In a lean platforms workflow, having that visibility makes those decisions informed rather than accidental. So I think the main thing you want to be looking at here is the recent commits. So you can see all of these recent commits here in the Git integration. So pulling it all together, so BuildMaster provides the unified view of applications and releases in a simple and scalable interface. It becomes the organization's command center, the place where every team can see how work is progressing across the entire ecosystem. As a result, teams can see what's in the current release, what's coming next, and what's planned further out. Low-risk changes flow predictably through the routine release pipeline. High-risk changes are tracked, coordinated, and monitored carefully in the major release. By seeing all releases side by side, teams reduce the cognitive load that comes with managing dozens of moving parts. They can visualize multiple releases and builds at once, plan dependencies proactively, and work in parallel instead of waiting in line. This type of holistic release level visibility simply isn't available in pipeline-centric tools like Jenkins or Octopus Deploy. BuildMaster is designed to show the relationships between applications, releases, and environments, not just isolated pipelines, so teams can make better decisions faster. This combination of dual cadence releases and real-time visibility fundamentally changes how LogistiCorp shapes software. Instead of waiting months for large risky drops, teams can continuously deliver small, low-risk updates that provide immediate value like new form fields, workflow buttons, or usability fixes, keeping operations stable while delivering steady progress. At the same time, the organization can plan strategically for its next major initiative, such as automatic shipment rerouting as a single high-risk release. These high-risk efforts move through a slower, deliberate cadence with visibility across all impacted teams and ample time for testing and coordination, while multiple low-risk updates continue in parallel. The result is a predictable, sustainable rhythm. Frequent low-risk releases that deliver constant value paired with high-risk releases that drive transformation. Lean platforms enables even a large interdependent organization like LogistiCorp to move quickly without losing control, continuously delivering value while planning change with confidence. Moving forward, BuildMaster is commercially available and we have a free version of it. The difference between free and commercially licensed is that all users of the free version are admins. Yeah, worth mentioning, BuildMaster is a tool, but really this webinar is more focused on the Lean platforms offering, which definitely involves a service aspect. So if you go to Inedo/Lean platforms, that is where you'll find that we will be sending out a email to everyone after that will include information where you can sign up to connect with us directly. You can also reply to the email that we'll be sending out after the event as well. And that would be the best way to show interest in the Lean platforms offering. Or you can just Google Inedo Lean platforms. BuildMaster, like I said, is a part of the sauce, but for organizations with multiple teams, different types of applications that would be more the way to get in touch with us. So with that, I hope everyone has a great holidays. Have a great one, y'all.